Hey there, welcome back. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at what you need to know about IELTS essays, and then we're also going to be answering some frequently asked questions that students have about Task 2, so writing their IELTS essays. First of all, let's have a look at a sample of a Task 2 question. So here it is. This is from IELTS.org, which is the British Council website. And this is exactly what it will look like in your exam. At the top, you have the time. It says you should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Now, remember, you have 1 hour in the IELTS writing test. So the British Council and IDP recommend that you spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. However, some students say that they find it easier if they spend 25 minutes on task 1 and 35 minutes on task 2. So I suggest that you practice and work out what time allocation works best for you. Right, below the time we have the rubric. So this basically gives the statement of the question, and this is where you can find all of the information about what the topic is that you're writing about. A good idea is to read this carefully and underline keywords that help you understand the question you're being asked. Now, below the rubric we have the task. In this case, it says, to what extent do you agree or disagree? So this lets us know that we're writing an agree-disagree essay. However, this might say something like, discuss both these views and give your own opinion, in which case we know we're going to be writing a discussion question. Right, below that we have the instructions, and these are always the same. They say, give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your knowledge or experience. Remember, these will be the same for every question you get. This will also be the same. It's the word count. It says, write at least 250 words. Now, that's at least 250 words. Remember, you can write way beyond 250 words. The important thing is that your essay communicates your ideas well. So if you need to write 350 words, that's okay, as long as you don't go below 250 words. Okay, let's look at some frequently asked questions about Task 2. And the first one is this. What are the different essay question types? So in the sample before, we saw an agree-disagree question. However, it could also be an advantage-disadvantage question, a discussion question, a double question, and a direct question. Now, a little bit later, we're going to be looking at all of these in detail. So in a future lesson, that is. The next question. What are the most common Task 2 questions? Okay, so these are the different question types, and this is how common they are. You can see that the most common questions are the agree-disagree questions. So it's very important that you spend a large amount of time practicing agree-disagree essays. We also have advantage-disadvantage questions, and this appears 22% of the time. 18% of the time it's a discussion question, 21% of the time it's a double question, and only 2% of the time it's a direct question. Now again, we'll be looking at all of these question types in a bit more detail in a future video. Okay, let's move on to the next question. What are the most common topics? Okay, there are certain topics that appear again and again in Task 2, and those are geography and the environment. So this is probably the most common topic to appear. As a result, it's a good idea to learn advanced vocabulary for describing geography and especially describing the environment. So you'll be able to do that in the vocabulary course. Next we have economy and work. We also have technology, education, upbringing and parenting, and the role of the government, companies, celebrities, individuals. Now, there are still some questions that don't appear within these categories. However, these are the most common topics that appear in the writing test. So getting some advanced vocabulary connected to these topics and practicing essays connected to these topics will definitely help you in your preparation for the writing test. Next question. Which is more important, Task 1 or Task 2? Now, for your writing score, task 1 is 1/3 of your score and task 2 is worth 2/3 of your writing score. So task 2 is twice as important as task 1. Okay, that doesn't mean that you should focus exclusively on task 2. It's much easier to get band 7 in both task 1 and task 2 than getting band 6 in task 1 and band 8 in task 2. So definitely focus on both task 1 and task 2 before you do your writing test. Next, how are my answers assessed? Okay, they're assessed on 4 criteria. The first is task achievement. Next, you have coherence and cohesion. We also have lexical resource, which is vocabulary. And finally, grammatical range and accuracy, which is obviously grammar. Okay, the next question. Why can't I get band 7+? Okay, let's look at the different criteria, the different marking criteria, and work out what commonly stops students from getting band 7 or above. Well, for task achievement, students often make the mistake of misunderstanding the question. For example, if the question asks about young children and you write about teenagers, you're misunderstanding the question and you will lose marks. You might not have well-developed ideas. Now, to get band 7 or above, you need to have well-developed ideas, which means you can't just write one idea in one sentence and then move on. You need to develop those ideas and ideally give examples. Now, don't worry, this is something that we're going to cover later on in this course. The next one is not having a clear position. Now, a position means your opinion. And if you remember the pie chart earlier that showed you the most common question types, you'll see that agree, disagree, advantage, disadvantage, and discussion questions are very common. Now, all of these questions ask for your opinion. Now, if you are asked your opinion, you need to give that in the introduction and the conclusion, and you need to make it very clear. If you don't make it clear, then you will lose marks. Okay, next we have coherence and cohesion. Now, this refers to the structure of your answer. So, one reason why you might not be getting band 7 for coherence and cohesion is that you have an incorrect use of paragraphs. Maybe your paragraphs aren't logical, or you might not even have paragraphs at all, in which case you're going to lose a lot of marks for coherence and cohesion. The next thing the examiner is looking at is your use of linking words. Now, these are words like although, for example, however, on the other hand, words that link our ideas in our essays. If we don't have linking words or we use them incorrectly, or even if we use the same linking words over and over again, we're going to get a lower score for coherence and cohesion. Next, lexical resource. Now, this is vocabulary. Now, one of the main reasons why you won't be getting band 7 or above is that you make mistakes in your word choice or word formation. So for word choice is, for example, using the specific word that conveys the meaning in your idea. And then word formation is, are you using the right form of the word? For example, a noun, adjective, or verb. Okay, the next one is mistakes in spelling. Yes, spelling is very important, and if you make mistakes in spelling, then it will be more difficult to get band 7, band 8, or band 9. In fact, if you've got very bad spelling, it's more likely that you're going to be getting band 5. Okay, next we have grammatical range and accuracy. Now, the main reason why students don't get band 7 in their IELTS writing is because of grammatical range and accuracy, from our understanding. Now, within grammatical range and accuracy, the most common mistake is with mistakes in grammar. Okay, so for example, maybe between subject-verb agreement, or you don't use a past tense correctly, or a conditional form correctly. These mistakes in grammar will lower your score. You might also make mistakes in punctuation. For example, forgetting to put a comma, or not putting it, or putting a comma too regularly, or in the wrong place. These things can also lower your score. There is another reason why students get a lower score for grammatical range and accuracy, and that is that they overuse simple structures. So in IELTS, the examiner likes to see a range of grammatical structures. If you're constantly using the same simple structures, you're going to get a lower score for grammatical range and accuracy. However, this isn't actually that common a reason why students don't get Band 7. It's usually because they're making mistakes in their grammar. So don't worry about simplifying your language. Focus more on accuracy. Right, next question. Do I need to use advanced grammar and vocabulary in order to get a high score? So I would recommend that you focus on communicating your ideas, not trying to use advanced vocabulary or grammar. Yes, it's a good idea to use advanced vocabulary or grammar, but this is going to come up naturally when you're trying to communicate complex or ideas related to the question you're answering. So your goal should be focusing on accurately communicating your ideas and not focusing on trying to use advanced grammar or advanced vocabulary. Okay, next question. Can I have extra paper for planning and making notes? So yes, you can. You can just put up your hand and the supervisor will come over and they'll give you some extra paper for planning or making notes. Although remember, you can also write on the question paper. And that's quite a good idea if you like to write a plan before you start writing your essay, for example, or maybe for taking notes on the part 1 graphic or letter that you have. Okay, should I do task 1 or task 2 first? All right, well, I recommend that you read task 2 first, but then you start doing task 1 first. And the reason for that is when you read task 2 first, subconsciously you begin to think of ideas that you're going to write in your essay. So even though you're writing task 1, subconsciously your mind is already developing the ideas that you can write in task 2. Next question. Can I write more than 250 words? Yes, you can. There's a bit of a myth in IELTS that you should only write between 250 and 270 words in IELTS essays, but that is not true. In fact, a lot of Band 8, Band 9 answers are closer to 350 words. So don't worry about writing too many words. Just make sure that you're writing more because you are explaining your ideas in more detail, not because you're trying to show off how many words you can write. Okay, next question. Should I leave a space between paragraphs? Okay, yes, you should. So remember I said for coherence and cohesion, the examiner is looking at whether you can use paragraphing accurately. If you don't have a space between your paragraphs, the examiner might not identify that these are separate paragraphs, and as a result, you're going to get a lower score. So make it clear to the examiner and just put a space between each paragraph. Okay. Are general task 2 and academic task 2 essay titles the same? No, they're not the same, but they are similar. So you'll have all of the same question types: agree, disagree, advantage, disadvantage, discussion, double questions, direct questions, although the topics might be slightly different. For example, in the general writing test, you might be given a question like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of living in a hot country? Okay, so that's for the general writing test. Whereas in the academic writing test, you might have a question like, what are the advantages and disadvantages of teachers doing homeschooling for their children rather than sending them to high school? Okay, so you'll see that academic task 2 questions are often slightly more challenging than general task 2 questions. Although when you're preparing, you should try both general task 2 questions and academic task 2 questions so that you have a range of topics that you can talk about and write about fluently. Right, best of luck with your studies, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye then.